Max Verstappen showed why he's a 4-time world champion in last week's Japanese Grand Prix, but can he do it again and fend off the mighty McLarens as F1 heads to Bahrain this weekend? Welcome to Speedcafe's preview of round 4 of the 2025 Formula 1 World Championship, heading to Bahrain, brought to you by the Ford F150. Verstappen's drive last weekend in Suzuka was argued by many to be the best of his career, and was built on possibly one of the best qualifying laps of the last decade. It was an unexpected result, and now leaves him just 1 point behind Lando Norris in the World Drivers' Championship. For McLaren, it was a pretty good weekend, without being brilliant. Its biggest issue being Suzuka's new surface that they've laid out, maybe not giving the same degradation that they would have predicted from previous years. Time management has been McLaren's party piece so far in 2025 and was even the case for 2024 last year. And it is expected to be a key factor in Bahrain this weekend. But, and it is a big but, the McLaren isn't as good around slower speed corners. It likes fast and flowing tracks, like Suzuka and even Albert Park. Bahrain is a little bit more stop-start. I mean, sure, there is that lovely little flowing section just at the start of Sector 2, and Sector 3 they should be pretty quick, but the slower and sharp corners with a few more traction zones might catch them out. So will McLaren have pack-crushing pace again, or be scrapping away with the likes of Mercedes and Verstappen? The Dutchman has been the closest rival to the McLarens so far in the first 3 races, with a close follower being George Russell, who's been super consistent and up the top in that Mercedes. And shown also by his teammate, there's plenty of pace in the car. So far, George hasn't managed to scrape it all together for a full weekend, but we have seen the raw pace, and it's not far off the McLaren. Could Bahrain be Mercedes and George Russell's first race win of the year? Our 4th different winner of the season. Well, 5 if you count Lewis Hamilton's Chinese sprint win. A man who wasn't happy with the Ferrari after Suzuka and had a pretty lackluster qualifying and struggled for pace in the race as well. It seems that they've found an issue that is going to be worth a couple tenths, so if that's the case, are we about to see a renewed challenge for the title from the boys in red? And now return to having 4 teams capable of winning on any given weekend. Now let's quickly bring it over to the championship standings for the drivers and constructors, because of course that's what we all care about at the end of the day, and as we previously said, Max Verstappen is now 1 point behind Lando Norris in the drivers' championship, with Oscar climbing up to 3rd now. Of course, unfortunately for Oscar, he had a very unfortunate start of the season in his home race, with George Russell in 4th closely behind. As for our favourites here in Australia, Jack Doohan is yet to get off the mark, and 2 is Liam Lawson. In the Constructors' Championship, McLaren of course dominates the field now with 111 points, 36 points clear of Mercedes, and Red Bull, and thanks entirely to Max, another 14 points back. 9 out of 10 of the teams so far have scored points this season, the odd one out being Alpine.
Max Verstappen is driving out of his skin at the moment. His performance in Japan was nothing short of sensational. We've kind of come to expect that from him, but many people have said it's the best race win of Max Verstappen's career, following on from the best pole position of his career on Saturday. And that's the sort of form he's been in much of this year. The Red Bull isn't a great car. It's certainly not a race-winning car in anyone else's hands. Just look at what Liam Lawson had to deal with in the first 2 Grand Prix. Even Yuki Tsunoda couldn't do much better in Japan. So Max is in the form of his life. He's doing things in that Red Bull that just shouldn't be possible. That makes him a threat. He's always a threat, but given that extra bit that he's got between his teeth at the moment, could he be the dark horse for this year's World Championship? McLaren does have the upper hand, but McLaren, in form like this, when his bad weekends still net race wins, who knows what the Dutchman could do in Bahrain.
So now Jack Doohan heads to Bahrain looking to bounce back from his disappointing Japanese Grand Prix weekend. A man who sat out of free practice 1 as reserve driver Ryo Hirakawa took his place. And in FP2 we know how that ended. It was a very big crash for him down into turn 1, as the problem seemed to be that he didn't turn off DRS manually before entering the corner. And with all of that, not getting the practice that he would have wanted for qualifying and the race. So heading into Bahrain, let's hope that he can get all 3 hours of practice in. He really needs to build some confidence and show the team bosses that he deserves this place in the long term. And it's a similar story for Liam Lawson in the Racing Bulls too. He's now got his first race back in his old team, Racing Bulls, under his belt, with a bit of an understanding for how that car drives now. Hopefully he can fall back into a bit of a rhythm. And he does have a lot of knowledge of this track and should be pretty comfortable within the team, as he's spent a fair bit of time there as well. And hopefully with all that, he can get his first points of the season. And as we know, that Racing Bulls is a lot easier to drive than the Red Bull. The Bahrain Grand Prix is a night race, making practice 1 and 3 a little bit misleading, while still absolutely worth it to get to grips with the car. The race itself gets underway at 6 p.m. local time, which for us, if you're in Australia, translates to 1 a.m. on the Australian East Coast. And if you can't watch the race live because of the awful timing, don't worry, Speedcafe will have you covered across a huge weekend of motorsport. Along with all the F1 news from Bahrain, we'll have you covered from Taupo as Supercars hits the ground running again in New Zealand. So make sure you follow and stay tuned to Speedcafe on our website and of course on the socials, so you don't miss a thing from all of your motorsport fix this weekend.